Have you ever seen the Sony FX30 fly? Watch this.
It's going down. It's going down, down.
What's good, y'all? So I picked up the Sony FX3 for 3 reasons. Number 1, for wedding videography. Number 2, to be my Sony Airpeak, hopefully main camera. And number 3, as a podcast slash live stream camera. And you can also use this as if you do a lot of Zoom calls and you have a lot of important web call stuff. So I got the Sony FX30 2 days ago from my wife and I's production company, Timeless Visionaries. On this channel, we talk about hybrid creative work, photography, videography, editing, and last but not least, how to become the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's you versus you. You're not competing with anyone else. You're trying to reach the best version of yourself. So of course, the FX30 is an APS-C video focused camera that Sony's made for their cinema line, but it does take some pretty good pictures as well. So if you ask me, I know you guys might disagree, I think drones are the hybrid king of it's one of the most versatile tools that you can have as a hybrid shooter. It's like one of them. I'm not saying it's the most. Actually, let's talk about this down in the comments. So I want to get you guys' opinion on it. Let me know down in the comments, do you all think that having a drone is one of the most versatile tools that you can have as a hybrid creative professional? Speaking like if you have your Part 107, if you use a drone in your tool bag with your other accessories. Having the ability to put a drone in the air and take photos and video is still something to me that is mind-blowing because it's such a different perspective and it just gives you something unique. And I know you guys hear the cliche all the time that everyone has a drone. That is not true. Everyone doesn't have a drone. Everyone doesn't have their Part 107. Everyone hasn't taken the trust test. So don't let other people's stigma around drones and flying drones stop you from getting one, because I do think once you fly a drone and you add that into some of your work, it's not going to change who you are. It's not going to change your work, but it is going to give your work a different element that you wouldn't have if you didn't fly drones. So when me and my wife decided to make the investment into the Sony Airpeak system, I knew that my main camera flying on the Sony Airpeak would be my Sony A1. Putting the Sony A1 on the Airpeak was something that I knew would be amazing, but I also knew in the back of my mind that I didn't want to always fly Sony A1 on the Sony Airpeak unless my client needed it. So I was always looking for a solution to have as a main camera for the Airpeak. The FX30, I think as of right now, I still need to do some more testing. I think the FX30 is going to be my main Sony Airpeak camera. So I'm going to be doing a longer overview of the Sony FX30 for hybrid shooters. I'm also going to be doing a long-term review. I think it's my 8-month or 9-month review on the Sony Airpeak. So if you guys want to see those videos, stick around to the channel because I got those coming soon. So what you all been waiting for? Here's some footage from the Sony FX30 and the Sony Airpeak that I've gotten over the last 2 days. So I wish I had more B-roll to show you all, but that was from 2 days of flying the FX30 and my Sony Airpeak, trying to get accustomed to it and just learning how the FX30 flies with the Sony Airpeak. Now I know the Sony Airpeak isn't something that most creatives are looking for or can afford. I was in the same position before me and my wife decided to invest in the Sony Airpeak, but I wanted to make this video specifically for new creators that are getting into the Sony FX30 and you have aspirations to do bigger projects. Being able to put the Sony FX30 onto the Sony Airpeak and fly that in the air for professional paid work is something that, again, it's a different level of being able to create. And I'm not saying that the Sony Airpeak is for everyone. I just wanted to make this video for the small and mid-sized creatives like myself to know that it's possible to buy this camera for the price point, which is pretty reasonable, and put it on a $15,000 drone. And you don't need to own the Sony Airpeak. You can rent it from lensrentals.com, so you don't need to own the Sony Airpeak to be able to utilize a Sony camera on the Sony Airpeak because it's all in the same system. And that's really the main reason I wanted to make this video, to show my Sony Airpeak owners and also people that may be interested in the Sony Airpeak what it looks like to fly the Sony FX30. Because when I bought this camera, my first goal was to solve me and my wife's problem of needing another camera on the tripod for our weddings. This FX30 is the perfect camera for either our bride cam or our groom cam. But also, this is going to be my main gimbal camera when I'm flying my Sony Airpeak. Unless I need to do like super high resolution, then I'll probably go to my A1. But for most video work, I think the FX30 is more than passable for all of the projects that I'm going to be doing, unless it calls for something else. So I'm really big on versatility. Having a versatile camera, like the Sony A1, I think is the most versatile camera in the world, but I know that the price tag that the Sony A1 demands, that's not going to be, I'm not even going to say affordable for a lot of people, because it wasn't affordable for me neither, but I did what I had to do to get this camera because I knew that I'd reached a level that if I could get this camera, it could help me unlock potential in myself. If you're just getting into the Sony ecosystem and you're looking at the FX30 and you're a hybrid shooter, I'm talking to hybrid shooters out there. This camera does take good still photos. It's not going to give you that fast burst rate, so it's not going to be good for everything. But as far as having a versatile camera in your kit for the price that this is at, I really think Sony really did a good job at pricing this fairly. Now, I'm not going to sit up here on YouTube and tell y'all that $1,800 or whatever it is with taxes, I forgot what it was, is cheap, because that's not, I don't think $1,800 is cheap, especially not where I'm from. But if you compare the Sony FX30 price to other cameras on the market that do the similar things that the Sony FX30 can provide, Sony has this camera priced really well. And if you're just starting to get into the Sony system, this is a more affordable camera than something like the A1, the FX3, even the Sony A7 IV is a couple $100 more than this. So if you all are interested in hybrid creative work, especially with Sony products, photo, video, flying drones, and getting better, like you versus you becoming a better creative for yourself, stick around to my channel because I got a lot more cool stuff coming out. Peace.